Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Welcome to High Strangeness. I'm your host, Tony, and this is the place where we talk all things strange and unexpected. Today, we're going to have a different kind of an episode. We're doing a round table where we pick a subject or two, we give some information, and then we just have a good conversation around it. So sit through this with us and enjoy it. And today I've got two co-hosts with me today, two regular voices on High Strangeness. We've got Anthony Hernandez, and we've got Bill Kearney. Welcome, guys. How you guys doing?
Good.
Not bad?
Doing good.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. Exhausted weekend, but good.
Busy? Did you guys have
Very.
a good, did you make a good Mother's Day for your mothers and wives?
Yeah, did a little homemade breakfast.
Nice.
And that doesn't happen very often, so I'm not much of a cook, so it's special occasions when that happens. And I make a big mess, too, so I think she's okay with that.
Sounds good. Bill, you like to cook. Did you do any of that this weekend?
No, unfortunately, on Mother's Day, we were transporting my mother-in-law to a rehab facility. She fractured her back
That's terrible news. Well,
a couple of days before, so I was up there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, helping get her moving around, and it was decided that she needed to be in a rehab center getting physical therapy. So she's doing that, and she's motivated to get home.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it. We miss her. We love her. We want her to get back home.
Yeah. Well, as we've said before, prayers to her and speedy recovery. So, All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started in our episode today. I want to start off by asking you a question first. And I'm curious if you have a favorite superhero.
Hands down, let me go first on this one, Anthony. There ain't nobody, and I've gotten into debates with people about this. Superman. Don't give me no Batman, nothing like that. No. It is Superman, and I hate people who say Batman could do this to Superman, and, well, Batman killed Superman, and that. I'm like, no. Superman.
I happen to agree.
Yeah, Superman's best superhero. But DC does a horrible job making films. I will say that. So Marvel's better.
Yeah,
at doing
Superman
films.
should have never died.
Yeah.
In fact, in the movie theater, when I saw it, I was with Allison, and I stood up and I yelled real loud in the movie theater, and everybody started laughing. But yeah, I'm a huge Superman guy. I think second would be Flash, if you consider him a superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
is it Superman for you too, Anthony?
Yeah, Superman's the best. But I mean, there's plenty of superheroes I like. Superman's the best, but like I said, Marvel's done a great job building up characters that I think I wasn't super familiar with growing up. So Iron Man and stuff like that. I mean, Superman hands down could defeat them, but I think like the way that they've built those characters, they're enjoyable to watch in the films and stuff.
Well, they come out with too many, I think.
Yeah.
There's just too many. Let me ask you a question on the superhero theme. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
That was my next question. I love it.
Mine's invisible.
Invisibility. Nice.
I would love to be invisibility, because with invisibility, you could basically have everything except for flying. You can have strength, because your opponent's not going to expect nothing. But
that's a good
fun
one.
you can have being invisible.
All right, I'm going to let Anthony go on his.
I would say strength though, because I would say it'd be cool to fly, but you couldn't lift anything. Stuff like that. So, I would say strength, because I think that would be overall the most useful. Strength and durability to be, you'd be able to get hit hard, stuff like that.
That would be cool.
I like that. I kind of am right there. I mean, the same as you guys. I feel like those would be awesome. You could use them, and really nobody can stop you, and that's what I love.
Yeah,
and, the invisibility, you're right there too.
I would
telekinetic
too. Being invisible,
like being able to move things or whatever. Like
that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
But being invisible would be great for like practical jokes, man. Like just walking up to a Super Bowl and walking out on the field and just knocking the shit out of a quarterback. When there's nobody around.
This is true.
Or walking up to a president when he's doing a press conference and just start bop, 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 like upside his head.
Yeah.
You just mess with people, and I think that's why I would want to be invisible, because
so you got
humor,
a lot more fun
you can create. Oh yeah, the fun you can have with it.
Well, let me ask you what you think of this. Fantastic Four's superhero. This is a flaming out guy. What do you guys think of him?
I mean, he's pretty cool because he has the power to fly, and because of the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Out of all four of them, that would be the one that I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be Stretch. I wouldn't want to be Stretch. No big deal there. Because that's more like a freak.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be the Thing. That would just suck.
You'd have to change all your clothes, everything.
Susan Storm can go invisible, Bill.
That's true. And she's got like a force field type thing she can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she relates.
Their brother and sister.
She probably relates more to, like, you probably relate more to, like, a beautiful woman than you do this guy.
Okay. So let me pull back a little bit and ask you, you don't get to have all these cool powers, but maybe this young lady here, Firestarter, right? And she has the ability to control fire, although she's out of control, but she can control fire, start it. Anything else that she can do?
Well, yeah, this movie was the remake from the one in the 80s. The original was Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
And she could just make fire rocks.
Yeah.
So she was she just make fire do anything that she wanted.
Yeah.
But not in the original. I mean, she would always for her back off, and then boom, she could shoot things. But yeah.
Yeah. But a little bit of trouble controlling.
But that's not a superpower, though, would it? That would be more like mind control, mind power.
That's a good point. That's true, because it's not coming from her. She's controlling it.
Right.
Good point.
I don't know anything about this, so this is all news to me.
Oh, you've never seen this, huh?
Nope.
You have to check it out.
Pretty good movie.
Well, so would you rather have power over the power like Iceman, or to control snow like Storm does? Or we already talked about strength. How about agility, mind control, or electricity? Would fire control be over any of those?
It depends. Electricity is pretty cool if it's like Doctor Doom, but fire would be a top one.
Yeah.
What about? Fire would be good. What's that one superhero? The one that was the Doctor.
Oh, Magneto? No, not Magneto.
Doctor. He was the Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor, he's like a wizard, doctor, whatever.
Strange.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
What kind of? Now that's magic, but is that mind control at the same time?
He controls dimensions.
So that would be cool if I could have that. Now, controlling that with dimensions and going from different dimensions,
Yeah.
I'll take that over shooting fire any day, because I don't know. It seems like the more you control a situation, the better.
Yeah. Okay. We can get into this for a while because we do like superheroes. Before we fall down that hill, let me ask you, because we are going to spend some time talking about fire in the first half of this episode. How would you explain fire? Like, define for me, what is fire? You guys have any idea?
It's energy. You know, it's like things reacting, and the energy is the result.
Yeah.
Now it goes back to the caveman days. I mean, it was meant for the survival of man.
Yeah, a tool. Definitely a tool.
In terms of a source of light, protection from predators.
Yeah.
Even melting down tools to make weapons. Yeah. So
very true.
I mean, fire has a lot of good, but also has a lot of bad. Yeah. A lot of bad things can come out of fire too.
Well, and it's interesting because it's hard to describe it really when you think about it. Like, you can describe ice, it's frozen water. You can describe different things, but fire is kind of weird. So a definition for fire is a chemical reaction that converts fuel and oxygen into carbon dioxide and water. I didn't know water came out of that, but I guess so. And it's an exothermic reaction. In other words, it produces heat. So it's pretty interesting. Here's where we can control fire. So flames occur when gases react, producing both heat and light. When different gases react, they produce different amounts of energy, causing some flames to burn at a very high temperature and others to burn at a lower temperature. So a candle, for instance, can be between 800 and 1,000 degrees. But the hotter something burns, the bluer the flame goes. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? So you kind of mentioned this a little bit, Bill, earlier. You said fire can be good and it can be bad. And so these first two pictures, what we see is, and now even this third picture, we see the ability of us to control fire and to use it for us. And I think that's an important thing. But fire can burn over 3,000 degrees and even more. And when temperatures go up, what do you think happens? It's very tough to control it.
Well, you lose oxygen. It sucks the oxygen out of the air.
Yeah.
In some cases. But also fire is viewed by Christians, the Chinese and Hebrews as a, divinity.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a symbol of, in their faith.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's true.
But also, when you think fire, you think hell, too.
Yeah.
It's one.
Well, it can be.
It
can be both, because fire can hurt, but it can also cleanse. Right.
Right.
The heat. So it's a little bit of both. Like you said, it could be hell, as in like you're gonna be burning, but then on the other side, it's when something is burned or put under tremendous amount of pressure, that usually equates and cleanses something or purifies it. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because fire, we need it. We can love it. Like in this case here, I'm sure he's loving this if it's a cool evening. But we love it and enjoy it when we can control it. Like now we have a picture here where maybe this is at the border of where we would want that. Some people do have big bonfires like this. You can see people around. But if it got worse than this, it could be bad.
We've been to a couple of those. I don't know if you remember. High school.
True. This is where it then becomes something we don't want, right? It's amazing how quickly a fire can spread through a house and be very destructive. It can be scary if we lose control, right? I mean, and I think that's, the Firestarter girl, like she couldn't control herself, and pretty soon she was really a hazard, scaring everybody. So, fire can be out of control very quickly. And in fact, talking about fire, in a few weeks there'll be an episode where I'm interviewing and author of the South Canyon Fire in Colorado from 1994. So make sure, folks, you turn into that. That's going to be a great interview to learn about what happened where 14 or so firefighters were lost. So, all right. We've talked about fire in a fun way and how it can become scary. But today we're going to spend some time talking about a weird phenomena that is called spontaneous human combustion. This is our first topic out of two. Do you guys know anything about spontaneous human combustion? Have you heard anything? Is it something you've ever heard of?
I know what it is, but I've never heard of it I've never heard of it happening or existing.
Yeah.
Like
it's
being
just
real.
something that, it's just something you see in a movie.
Yeah.
Where someone just instantaneously bursts into flames.
Right. Are you saying you saw that on a film or something, or?
I haven't even seen it in a film. I just,
Okay.
I've heard of it, but I don't, it's one of those things where it's like, is that real?
Well, you've seen it in the film if you saw the Fantastic Four. I mean, he burst into flames. I mean,
yeah,
but usually
usually
it's talked about in a negative way, like a monk or something just sitting there, just boom, boom, or someone that passes away just real randomly caught on fire, and it's like, what? How does that happen?
I wouldn't want that, even though you. Yeah.
I mean, the first time I was exposed to it, I was a kid, and I actually saw a story on it, and I was asking my dad about it, and he was explaining what happened, and I remember being pretty scared because I was like, "Oh no, can this happen?" I mean, like I was like worried for a little while, thinking this could just randomly happen, and we're going to talk about how bizarre this phenomena is. And if you even thought that this was possible, that it could happen to you, it's pretty scary. So, just to back up for a minute, spontaneous human combustion refers to a person dying by fire, but without an apparent external source of ignition. So it's believed that a fire starts from within the body of the victim. Let's see, next picture. The idea or term of spontaneous human combustion was first talked about in the year 1746. So I know we don't hear it too much now, and I want to say during the 70s and 80s I heard it a few times, a story of it, but it wasn't something just recent. I mean, we can go back hundreds of years and there's stories of people spontaneously just going up in flames and burning up. And so that's what this phenomena is. There's a book that was written in 1995 where a researcher stated that he had seen 200 reported cases worldwide over a period of 300 years where this has happened to people. So it's pretty rare, but
what are the cases too? Just that they were sitting there at a Starbucks and all of a sudden, whoosh, poof, like lit on fire, right? I mean,
well, most cases are, and we'll talk about a couple of them here, but most cases are people at home, and in some cases there were potential ignition sources near them. But we'll talk about why that wasn't really the cause of the fire. But as we get into some of the examples, you'll see it's very hard to attribute it to anything other than starting from within somebody's body. So, with that, if you're hearing about this for the first time, is it pretty scary to think that this is even a possibility?
Well, yeah, I want to know how.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't eat spicy food for a reason. I mean, it's even more so now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No thanks. I don't want that.
No, there's no. Oh man, I can't even imagine the pain.
Yes. So let me give you a little bit of information here. So back in 2010, there's a story where a police officer and some firefighters found an older man who had this happen to him. The man's name was Michael Faherty, 76-year-old man, and so he was so badly burned to death that it basically incinerated his body to ashes. You know how hot a fire has to be to turn you into an ash of a human? Over 3,000 degrees. That's not a normal fire.
They normally, like, when they cremate people, that's, like, difficult for them to, like, their special equipment that they need, right? Because it's difficult to get something that hot.
Yes, that's exactly right. And this is where the phenomena gets weird. In this case, that person burned to death, and as you're looking at the picture right here, what you can see is just a intense heat, but nothing around the person burned. So if you're in a house fire, all sorts of things burn, right? But this is it appears to be a very fast heat or flame that just incinerates the person, boom, and it's done.
It's almost like a controlled explosion.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't, like when a grenade goes off, it goes out. This is just controlled.
It can't be like a normal fire, because if it's only consuming the person, there must be something it's feeding off of, right? Because if it's a normal fire, it would spread, unless maybe when it's that hot, it's harder to spread. I don't know, or I don't know.
You gotta wonder what's in their body. I mean, and I'm not trying to be funny or not. I mean, is there gas buildup? Is there acid? Is there what kind of foods they eat? What's their diet? Is there a combination that they're making in their body that is making it into a flammable?
Yeah. So scientists have looked at this, and they said that a body can catch on fire, not quite like this though, because there is fat can burn. There's methane gas, which I know you're very familiar with, Bill. So there's stuff like that are in the human body that can cause, they're flammable, right? But
there's one for you.
This is much worse than that, because those things don't produce heat over 3,000 degrees. I don't know. So I'm going to tell you about a story here, or an example. And then I'm going to show you a picture. And I'm going to say this up front. There are going to be 3 pictures coming up that if you've got a little kid or something watching this for some reason, you probably don't want to show them this, because it's not the best thing for a kid to see after hearing about this. Okay, so the first case of spontaneous combustion on record took place in Milan in the late 1400s, when a knight named Paulinus Virtuous allegedly burned into flames in front of his own parents. So he was sitting in front of them, and he just ignited and blew up. That was the story, right? And in 1745, there was a countess. I'm going to mess up her name. It's Cornelia Zangari, or something like that. 1745. Her family's wealthy. She goes upstairs to bed. And then the next morning, her chambermaid found her in a pile of ashes. Only her partially burned head remained, and stocking adorned legs, both legs. Everything else was ash. How does that even happen without burning the bed or anything else? By the way, when these things happen, usually wherever the person is sitting, the floor is burned and the ceiling right above them is burned. But nothing else in the room, nothing around them. They can have something 3 or 4 or 5 feet away, no fire. So this is a picture of the remains of somebody. One of the examples that you can look up. What do you see here? A severely burned area, 2 legs, and that's it. I mean, the fire is intense and quick enough that it severs the legs without burning the legs. I don't even know how that's possible. What do you guys think? You're probably like me, right? The first time I saw some of this stuff, my jaw was open. I was like, can this be real?
Man, I don't know. Back then, man, like in today's, I mean, I could see where a body can catch fire sitting in a chair. If you have like a heated chair, a heated blanket, and you fall asleep and it catches fire and you burn. And sometimes fire does whatever it wants. It can be controlled. It can stay in that one spot.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, 14 to 17 cent, they didn't have that stuff.
Right.
So it makes it even more bizarre. There's no, well, was it an electric chair? Was it plugged in? Was it a heated chair? There's nothing there to show me what could start a fire.
Right. Right. A couple more pictures we'll go through. This is another one where there's nothing but a leg left. I mean, the leg is separated. Like, the shoe should be melted, all this other stuff, but it's not. And this is...
You notice they're all females.
Yeah. That's interesting. A lot of the examples I saw were, but I don't know. I mean, I'm aware of a few of the men too, but I wonder if it's more women than men. I don't really know. So
they get so angry, like they just burst.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, it's weird because it's like whatever's causing it's in the midsection, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're finding. In fact, there was one story that you can actually go online and find this if you really want to. There's a story of a man who actually survived. So there was somebody with him at his house, and they were watching a show or something. And all of a sudden, from the side of his stomach, a flame just burst out and just started going through. And he screamed and rolled to the side, but his friend was right there and started trying to douse it and put it out. And so the gentleman was burned pretty bad, but it didn't get any further than that. And there was no apparent reason or cause for that fire.
Another thing I want to know. One thing I want to know too. Again, there's no dumb questions. There's no here. But what are the occupations of these individuals? The reason why I asked that is back in the old days, like when the circus was just coming out, we saw these people with the fire going in and doing all kinds of things with taking fire inside their mouth, blowing out fire, taking swords with fire, putting it into their body. I mean,
it's as good a guess as any.
Yeah, I mean, is it like, did they all have experience playing with fire?
I don't know, but the specs of the fire, though, 3,000 degrees to incinerate, like that's just something freaky's going on right there. Like,
yeah, but over time, with playing with fire, like if you're sucking in fire and breathing it, like if you're a circus person, whatever, back in the early days, if you're, what I mean, who knows what you're doing to your body? Who knows what you're creating inside there? It's like imagine your stomach like a volcano, and you're just throwing stuff in there that's building up, and all of a sudden it erupts.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, everything I know about a body should not be impacted by what you're saying, but this shouldn't happen either. So we can't shoot down anything. Who knows? This is a bizarre thing, right? And that's the strangeness of it, is we really can't explain how this happens. There isn't real good data beyond what you find with what's left over. So I don't know. I mean, we buzzed through this topic pretty quick because it's kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of morbid.
Well, and it's like I don't have a clue what's causing this. I can't even speculate. It's a new fear that's been unlocked. That's all I'll say.
I know, right? Fortunately, it's not very often that this happens, but oh my gosh. How that even... Yeah, I don't know how that happens.
So instead of being like sitting around the house, like, what if I just had a heart attack right now? My new fear is like, I'm just going to be watching TV and be like, what if I just burst into flames?
No, you can't sit on my lap. Get away from me.
Yeah, exactly. Happens to a little one or a relative, they're sitting too close to you. Could be bad. All right. I don't have much else to say about this. Are you guys ready to move on to something else?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay. This one is probably, we've talked a lot about different conditions and things, but this one's top as far as I'm concerned, like just freaky as far as what may cause this.
Yeah, and to any of our viewers, if you know a story or heard a story about this, put it in our comments, email it to us. Share your story with us. We're interested.
Yeah. Okay. Topic number 2. But before we get to topic number 2, I want to ask you guys, and anybody listening, think about this for a minute. What is your favorite comedic movie from your younger years? Do you have one that sticks out in your mind that you go, oh, I really love that? And make sure it's not R-rated, because I have an idea about one of you. So,
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Yeah, that's a good one. But Better Off Dead. One Crazy Summer. I won my $2. I won my $2. That's before your time, Anthony. But Tony knows exactly what movie I'm talking about. Yeah. Or boom, falling down the stairs. Bum, 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 bum. That didn't hurt. That didn't hurt. That didn't hurt. Oh, that hurt.
Well, let me ask you this.
Let me tell you what. The 80s. That was the decade for movies, man.
That was great. My favorite.
That was the decade for action and comedy. Yeah. It really was.
I agree, and everything was so original too. Like now, it's kind of the same stuff. Yeah, that when I watch movies from the '80s and early '90s, I'm like, man, we lost something. Those are special. Anyway, go ahead.
You ever watch Better Off Dead?
I think I have. Isn't that the one where the two ladies? Let's see. No, I'm not. I'm thinking of something totally different. No, I'm sure I've seen it. It sounds familiar, but I don't recall.
It's one where a family takes in a foreign student, and there's like racing in it. It's hard to explain. I'll
have to check it out because it sounds super familiar, but
it's hilarious. It's hilarious, and that and One Wild Crazy Summer. I mean, Caddyshack, Groundhog Day, like we're seeing up on here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask if you guys knew what this was.
Yeah,
for me,
but I wouldn't put Groundhog Day on my top 10 though.
No, I wouldn't either, but it was a good one.
It was a good one.
Definitely was a good one. I wasn't sure you guys were going to get that, but you did very easily, and so that's why I was going to help us out with this next picture, Groundhog Day. What is the...
Did you know that was Groundhog Day, Anthony?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know Groundhog Day.
Yeah. It's a good one. I like it. What is the story, just briefly, behind this movie? You guys, somebody want to share what happens to Bill Murray and his character?
Yeah, so basically he's a news reporter, I believe, right? So he does something with the news, and he relives the same day. And so the movie is, he keeps waking up on Groundhog Day, and he decides to, after a while, he obviously has like a nervous breakdown, freaks out, and then he just kind of lives for who knows how long, living the day a different way every time, to the point where he knows and memorizes like people's names, their backstory, and then he gets intrigued by this woman and starts dedicating time to learn all this stuff about her and try to pursue her day after day. And then, long story short, he basically has been living the whole time for himself, for his own desires and everything he's been going after. And then towards the end, he finally lives like a pure day where he's actually interested in other people and doing good, I believe, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And then that kind of ends that a loop that he's in, and he can finally move to the next day.
Yeah. Kind of changed his outlook on life and towards others, because he was a pretty much jerk.
Yeah.
He wasn't liked.
Very true. It's a good movie. Definitely a good movie. So we're going to talk about something that reminds me a little bit of this, but not to this extreme. I do want to ask another question, though. Maybe you guys have experienced this before. This happens to me every once in a while, but I remember the last time it was so vivid. I smelled something, and immediately my mind, I could see it. I was back in 3rd grade, walking down the hall, coming down the steps at my elementary school, where I had the same smell in the hallway. And it was very distinct, but at that moment, it's like I was thrown back in time to that experience. And this can happen with songs. This happens all the times for me with a song. And then it can happen with taste as well. I don't know if you guys have ever seen me eat a tasty cake, the 3 chocolate cakes. Sometimes I'll sit there and my kids will laugh because I'll sniff them first. And they go, "You're weird. Why do you do that, Dad?" And I go, "Because I remember the first time I had it, sitting under the table, hiding from my mom with that chocolate cupcake because I wasn't allowed to have it yet. And I smelled it, and I remember that moment. Takes me right back to that moment." Have you guys ever had anything weird like that happen, where that it throws you back in time?
Yeah, couple and so we live out we all live in Utah, so when we get certain storms, depending on the winds blowing, we get the smell of the Great Salt Lake, and I love that smell. A lot of people think, "Oh my gosh, it stinks so bad," but I love it because it reminds me of just crossing the Rio Grande Bridge, going into Wildwood.
Yep.
Exactly, and I love it. And I will go outside. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Wildwood is a special place in my heart," and it constantly reminds me. Another thing is there's certain other like butter rum lifesavers are, if I see them or I smell them, it's very painful and dramatic to me.
Bad experience?
Yeah. I won't say on air, but yeah, I cannot. If someone's sucking down a butter rum lifesaver, I can smell it. I have to leave the area.
This is good that you're saying this, because it shows that sometimes these are good memories, but sometimes this can cause a reaction in a person that really is uncontrollable because it's a bad reaction.
No, I know I mean, I really got to leave the area. Like I won't do it.
Yeah.
It's just very weird. But the Salt Lake and a couple other things here and there, you know, like I got different things around the house from the Jersey. Sure, I mean that's where Tony and I grew up. Yeah. You know, Anthony was born in Jersey. He lived there for a couple of years.
That's what I was going to say. It's funny you mentioned the storm, because even when I go outside and it's been raining all day, the thought that comes to my mind that's triggered is there's one time when we were living in New Jersey and we were playing outside in the rain, and I don't remember exactly what we were doing, but I just remember getting out on the roof of that yellow house that we lived in, going up to the attic and hopping out on the roof and just kind of sitting there while my cousins and stuff were playing around, and just everything was wet and soaked. And so anyway, that's what triggers my mind when I go out in a rainstorm, is like those experiences. There's also certain perfumes or colognes that trigger like high school people I knew that wore them, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're great examples, and folks that are listening, you have them too, right? Now you're probably thinking right now about something that you've experienced through sight, smell, or memory of some sort. And our discussion for a minute here, I think it's because our brain can do certain things, and it puts us in a weird place where we have to stop for a minute and wonder. Just like when we go back and remember something from the past, it's almost like you stop for a minute and go, "Wow, I can't believe that drove me back to that moment." because things that happen in our mind are powerful.
Yeah. Well, I watch MTV, 80s MTV all the time on YouTube, and like old videos will come up of Van Halen 84, and I'm like, oh my gosh, hey, Allie, kids, come over, look at this. You see this video? Me, Tony, Blockhead, Nick, we were all there when they shot this. We're right there on the side of the stage, right there, Panama. We were right there. We're right there, like Dad. There's 1,000 people there. I'm like, I'm right there. I'm just thinking about. I don't remember watching them go in the back of our seats were right. I mean, just when Michael Eddie Van Halen threw out the pick.
Yes, I remember.
And everybody's fighting for it, and it landed right on my foot, and I put my shoe right over it. Everybody's fighting, trying to find it. 3-4 minutes later, I tapped Tony on the shoulder.
Yeah,
I mean, every detail. But when you're talking about music, one song videos and everything like that, because that was the 80s. That's what we did. We sat around, we drank Old Milwaukee, and $1.99 for a 12-pack. I mean, what are you going to do?
Right.
When you're 17, 18. But a song that gets me every time, and I think you'll probably agree with this, and this might even be for you too, Sister Christian.
Yep. I remember that.
Reminds me of all my buddies, man. All my brothers.
Yeah. That's a powerful memory. Anthony, do you have one like that with your friends, or like a song that reminds you of your group?
With your one friend?
Yeah, my one friend. He's like half friend. We're only friends during the week. So, yeah, I mean, we have that. We have experiences. Like, anytime I go to the gas station and see a slushie machine, I think of one of my friends, and we would just go out every night and just drive around town and just get slushies. So, like, we would do stuff like that. So, that kind of stuff, those are powerful memories.
Yeah. Okay. Audience,
I think
thinking,
a lot of ours has to do with food too. A lot of.
I was going to say, audience is probably thinking, "Wow, we learned way too much about you guys right there." But let me say this: I did spend a little bit of time here because I think it's fun to remember the things that we all can say we've gone through. But this is an issue. Well, it's not an issue. It's something that happens to many of us, and I'm curious. As everybody sits there and thinks about this, when's the last time you had deja vu? And I want to tell you, we really don't know what causes it. The question here that we're going to talk about for a few minutes is this a scientific thing that happens to us that can be explained, or is it a paranormal thing? And I'm curious, what do you guys think? Is it something that our brain is just doing, or do you think there's something else going on?
I don't know. I think it's a little bit of coincidence, depending on what the deja vu is. If you experienced, a tragedy in your life, and then it happens again 20 years later, I mean, is it deja vu, or is it just a coincidence, or is it bad luck?
Yeah.
Or just bad luck, the only luck you got. But it could be a good thing too.
Yeah.
Like memories of me, with the Jersey Shore, But I don't know. I think there's a movie called Deja Vu. You ever see it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Denzel Washington.
Denzel
Right?
Washington.
Very, very good. In fact, I got a picture at the end of this that we were going to talk about that. So thank you for preempting me. But no, it's a good movie, and there's a theory behind that, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Anthony, you have any thoughts before we get into some of the details here, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, part of me thinks that it's just something our brain does. I don't know about you guys, but like, I know I've had deja vu, but I don't usually remember exactly the instances. And like for me, there's been several times, I mean, even in the last year, where I'll experience something and I could swear that I had a dream about that like 2 or 3 years earlier. And it's usually something stupid. It's like, going to the furniture store and looking around and my wife says something and I'm sitting there looking at her going, I'm pretty sure I like dreamed this
Yeah.
this weird, pointless exchange or whatever, very simple thing. I'm pretty sure I've experienced this before, and I always think like, oh, I dreamed it or something like that. But then I sit there and I go, well, did I really, or is this just something my mind is, because I can't ever really name the specific instance. It's just like something I feel in the moment. I go, huh, that's weird. I think that's a little deja vu. I think that I've somehow experienced this before. Oh well. And then I keep moving on.
Right.
And then when someone asks me or we talk about it, it's like I can't put my finger on this day, on this time. This is what I experienced. It was just a weird feeling that I had going about normal daily tasks.
Yeah. And so I'm going to run through a list here of potential causes. And then when I go over one briefly, I want to see if you think this is an up or down possibility. And if you have anything to say about it, you can do that. But I do want to get your reaction to that. So the first theory, it's scientific or physical, is that the belief is that the brain has neurons that misfire. So it mistakes the past for the present, and it mismatches memories just for a brief minute. So like you have experienced something similar in the past, and now you experience it again, and it makes you think you saw it that moment at a previous time. That's one theory. Thumb up or down? What do you guys think as a possibility?
I go thumb up.
Yeah, thumb up. Okay. All right, let's look at theory number 2. Theory number 2 is called the theory of delayed processing. So when you observe something, the image, the light, everything goes into your eye, and then there's different sensories that can pick it up and send that signal down to your retina, going back into your brain. But you could have different aspects of that vision or that optical thing come into your eye, and then there's 2 different pathways that are created. So part of what you're seeing shoots down this nerve and then this nerve, but one gets there before the other one. So that's why it's called the delayed processing. So in that moment, you saw it, but then you saw it again, and you think it happened twice. Once before in your mind, and now again. What do you think about that?
I go thumbs up, and I believe that to be more realistic than the first one.
Okay. And Anthony, you're like this, you said?
Yeah, I don't know. That one, I actually think, to me, the first one seems a little more realistic of your mind crisscrossing kind of memories almost.
Let me give you an example when you're done.
Me? Give you an example?
Well, have you ever been driving down the highway?
Well, of course.
And then you just see something, you visualize it, and then you take precautions before it happens, and all of a sudden it happens. Now that's happened to me.
Yeah.
Is that deja vu or is that a premonition?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That borders on paranormal if it's a premonition, right?
There's been several times where I'm driving and just back off, move over, and all of a sudden, boy, if I was sitting there, that would have been me.
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at this next one. Is conflict resolution. So, let's see if I can remember what this is about. This is where you think you saw something, but later recognized it was off. It's a conflict between your brain and milliseconds. So you think, if you might see something from the side of your eye, and it looks like something, but then your eye blinks and looks at it again, and you get a clear picture of it. So the first time you saw something you thought was different, and now you're seeing it again, and your mind has a conflict. It's trying to make sense of both of those images. Therefore, it creates a deja vu experience in your mind. How about that one? What do you guys think about that theory?
Maybe if I'm drunk,
Yeah.
you know. But since I stopped drinking, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem realistic to you.
Mm.
Well, not the way you described it. I mean, seeing something that's there or not there, but what you're saying is seeing it and then seeing it come in more clearly.
Yeah. Not my theory, but one that's out there. So okay, so you're both thinking, nah, I don't like that one
Yeah,
so
I'm
much.
thumbs down on that one.
Okay. This next one, it's called a discarded memory. So let's say, Bill, you're at a hockey game. Anthony, you're watching some business thing. And then you've seen so many of these. But some of these experiences are not that important, so your mind discards them. Now you see something very similar again, sometime in the future, and your mind now connects the discarded old memory with this new thing you just experienced, and it thinks deja vu. How about that one?
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
And if you know how to control it and use it, it's a great tool. Give you an example. You said hockey. When I coached hockey, I would tell players where to go on the ice on face-offs, just because they would look at me like I'm crazy, right? But I've seen thousands. I've seen enough to know. I just know where the puck's going.
Yeah.
You know? So I put a man there before the puck even gets there.
Yeah. Could be. I mean, that's a good example. And so, but you guys both think this one has a high probability of being real.
I do.
Yeah, I think so, because I mean, like you said, it's almost like I guess what's the best way to describe it? I think of like AI and how it learns quickly, right? It takes existing information and it ties it with questions or whatever, and you learn from it. So your mind is the ultimate, intelligence, like processing tool. And so it would make sense that it's pulling data that it's discarded and tying it in with existing situations. I think in order to learn, like in Bill's situation, maybe, he's pulling in memories of other instances that were similar to what he was experiencing in coaching hockey and then tying it into an existing situation. And so for me, it's like I think it could be easily misinterpreted as I've seen this before, rather than I learned from this experience and I'm applying it to a current experience. It could easily be misinterpreted as, wait, I think I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
A matter of misinterpretation going on, all this processing in your mind at that point. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so you guys both think this has got a strong possibility. Let me give you another one. This one's called divided attention. Now, of course, my wife would say I live in this state constantly because she thinks I'm never paying attention to her and I'm divided in my attention. But this example is a situation where you partially see something and not really, it doesn't kind of click with you and make a lot of sense or even feel like it's worth your time. But then, so subconsciously you're observing something but never really registering it, like giving it any importance. And then at some point later you experience something very similar, and then your mind pulls that latent memory up a little bit, and now it looks like it's a repeating memory. What do you guys think about that one? That's called the divided attention.
I agree with Jill.
Yeah.
Well, I think the concept is correct, is like, because if I'm not giving 100% attention I could see one thing and then later see something similar, even though it's not exactly the same. But if I'm not paying 100% attention to it, I could see something similar and then relate the two because I wasn't really paying attention 100% the first time.
Yeah.
Right? So there could just be some similarities that I'm recognizing and thinking I've seen that before or I've experienced that before.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes too, like say we all witnessed the same thing, right? An event. And at the end, we get questioned about that event by somebody. I bet you the high percentage that we're each going to have a different story on what we viewed.
Yeah. That happens all the time. It's very individualized what we experience. Okay.
Yep.
I want to share with you, because I didn't know this before. I mean, I guess I kind of did, but I didn't actually know there was officially multiple types of deja vu. So I'm going to run through a list of a few just to share that information. There's something called déjà entendu, and it's the sense you've already heard something that in fact is really new to you. So it's not seeing it, but hearing it, okay? Then there's also something called déjà pense, or pense. The feeling you've had a particular thought before, and now the thought you have at the moment, you think you've had it before. Déjà goûter, I hope I'm saying that right. Looks like it's very French. Relates to food. So you're eating something, you're tasting it, and you know you've had this before. I'm not talking like you had pizza and then you had a pizza next week again. I'm talking something distinct and different, and you think you've had this before. Déjà vu is the sense you've desired something or someone before when you haven't. You've never seen them. This is the first time you're meeting them. But you feel like there's something that you knew this person or met them before.
That's probably one of the most common ones, I would imagine. How many times do people say, I know you from somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a funny experience with that one. So I did a indoor event, and I had a guy. It was like the second or third day, and this guy came up to me and he purchased something from my booth, and he was like, "I know you," and I said, "I know you, but where do we know each other from?" He's like, "I don't know." And so we started going down the list. All right, did you go to school here? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? Do you know this person? And both of us were just like, we flippin' know each other. Like, how do we know each other? And we go through the whole list. Nothing connects. Not a single thing. And then he ends up going his different ways. And I'm sitting there, the whole day thinking, how do I know that person? And like I said, this is second or third day of this fair, this event. And it finally occurs to me. This was a Saturday. It finally occurs to me that the night before I walked past his booth and I asked him how much something cost. So not quite the same thing, but it was just one of those funny things where I was like, I swear I've met this person before. And maybe it's a little bit of a combo of a few things, because maybe I met him, but I wasn't really paying attention to what he looked like or some of that conversation. And then as he's coming up in a separate situation, I'm like, I know, like I thought we were friends, honestly. I was like, I met this guy, I've hung out with him. I created this whole backstory in my mind, like, we were going to hang out, this whole thing, and he ended up just being another vendor. So anyway,
that's a good one, actually. That kind of is like some of the examples we talked about. I like that. Deja vu, meaning you believe you've already lived. This is your second life, and you're going through something similar again. And then I'm going to say this, I'm going to mess this up. It's Jamas vu, meaning you've never seen something in a situation that you should be very familiar with, but instead it feels foreign to you, like you've experienced it only for the first time. I go through this one all the time. Where I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then my wife will go, oh, we just talked about that. So, interesting, huh? These are the different types of deja vu. once again, is it our mind messing with us, or is there something going on different here? We're going to talk about a couple other things here in a second, but I want to just tell you that deja vu can start at the ages of 6 to 10 years old. That's been some of the ages where people have started mentioning they've had this. Most common ages are between the ages of 18 and 25. And then, believe it or not, after the age of 25, deja vu seems to happen less and less. Do you guys experience deja vu more now or when you were younger?
I don't know. Like I said, I mean, earlier, I've had instances in the last year or two where I've thought I've experienced that, but it's a good question. Like I said, deja vu is one of those things where, for me particularly, it's always been in a really unimportant instance where it's like a side conversation, or we're walking into a store and I see something on a shelf and I think, oh, I've felt this before, that I've walked in and I looked at that. Like, it's always been things that just weren't important, and so I've always just brushed them aside. So that's a good question. I mean, it doesn't happen often to me, so I mean, it's totally possible that it's happening less now as I get older. But I don't know. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, what do you think?
For me, I think it happens more because I'm more aware of it.
You're
I have
thinking
more
in the
memories.
past, you just
Yeah, well, because I have more memories, and as you get older, you know, we think about our past. I mean, our lives, me and you. I mean, let's be real. You know, we're 60 in 3 years. You know, our lives are more than half over, more than 80% over. So yeah, I reminisce about the old days. So I think about stuff all the time. So if I see something, you know, oh man, that triggers a memory.
yeah.
But here's an interesting thing. I don't know if this will tie into one of the ones that you said. I talk a lot in my sleep. And Allie says that many times I will hold a conversation with somebody, but in tongue.
What do you mean by in
Like,
tongue?
I will speak a different language. And I'm like, am I just making gibberish? She's like, no. It is I'm dead serious, Anthony. Don't laugh.
This crap's
And
funny.
I'm like, what's
Why am I not surprised
Spanish?
by this?
And she goes, I'm like, is it Spanish? Is it Italian? She's like, no. It's like, if I had to guess, it was Hebrew.
Really?
And it's like, it's not like when you and Tony make up words, like, you know, stuff like that. I'm like, you are like, you have the accent. The words are clear. You're not just mumbling and jumbling. You're holding a conversation in a with perfect words and everything. And I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what language it is, but if I had to guess, I would say Hebrew.
She needs to record that.
She's like, this happens a lot.
Yeah, tell her to record it, because maybe we can get some future predictions on something.
Well, maybe it's a little bit. You remember a little while back we did that episode where there was that condition where someone like hit their head or whatever, and all of a sudden they spoke in a different accent. Maybe that's something that's not permanent. Maybe he's pulling some of that out there, and he's like, "Chachim chalala chamadeach."
I'm gonna call that deja. What the heck?
That's funny.
But it's kind of weird because she says it's not like you just, because she knows me and you, like, you know, whatever. It's not like that. She's like, it's like, and then sometimes you're getting on a shouting match with it. You're like, whatever. And she's like trying to intimidate it. I'm like, does it sound like that? Like, that's the weird thing. It is perfect.
You sure you're not getting possessed? I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I'm like,
look,
maybe I would.
I'm going to ask you to do this. Homework, kind of.
Can
you look into that? I mean, I wonder if other people go through that. It's it's strange. Falls right in line with what we do. Can you do that? Can you take a look and see if you can find anything? I mean, if this is a situation where it's happened to other people and it's been recognized, maybe there is actually something out there. So
I should ask Allie if she wants to say something on the air, but she'll probably say no.
That's interesting. That is definitely interesting. Well, okay. let's hop into some strange paranormal type stuff.
I just text Allie, by the way, to see if she'll.
Oh, yeah, if she wants to come on and tell us about it, that'd be good. Yeah. Okay. So there is, let's see here. I think I have my pictures out of order. Okay. This is that one movie you were talking about earlier, Bill. Deja Vu. Do you guys remember the premise behind this movie? Like why did they come up with this title? Like what was going on? And could it really happen?
I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything about the movie. I think I remember part of the trailer.
Stop a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
It was to stop a terrorist attack.
Yeah, so it was an FBI sponsored time travel, but they can only go back a short period of time, and so he could go back and see something, and then it was like deja vu because he actually went back in time only a day. I think they could only go back a day or something like that to try to stop crimes. So this is a weird one in the sense that I don't believe there's an FBI program with sponsored time travel that will cause this. So, yeah, I don't think this is one that works so well. So, what are your thoughts on that? Just a good movie, right? Does she want to share it?
Yeah, she's going to share, so she don't want to go on camera, though, so hold on.
Okay, that's fine.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yes.
Go right ahead, Allison. Tell us.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. He sings this like real, like it's almost like a war song, and it sounds Arabic. It's so weird. Oh, I wish I had it taped. It's so funny.
Allison, you got to tape it next time. Keep a tape recorder or your phone nearby.
I know. I try to. I actually have a videotape of him doing this weird. I'll send it to you. It's like this weird, like, pointy thing. He's, like, pointing at people. It's so weird. He's such a weird man. But I love him.
Yes. Well, thank goodness, because, yeah, that would be weird, huh?
I was telling him so.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to him, and he can send it to you.
So when I'm speaking, you've told me that it sounds like a real language. Like stuff. It sounds like a legitimate language. The accent and everything. Like I know a second language.
Oh, for sure. And it's I don't know if it's the exact same song, but it sounds like the same song every single time. It's like very military.
So it's a song?
It's a song.
So he's singing in Hebrew?
He's doing a Hebrew chant.
It's like so weird.
Is it the Israeli?
Maybe it's almost like he's like singing to people. It's so weird. I just laugh every time though.
You have to definitely tape it for us. We definitely.
I think he's done it like 3 times, so it's pretty random. It's like.
Well, this would be the funny
on
thing.
a night. Yeah, it's usually on a night when he already is like restless, sleeping, and talking in his sleep a lot, and it's weird. All right.
I do talk in my sleep a lot.
Well, it would be funny if he's actually speaking another language. That would be funny.
So I didn't know I sang in my sleep. I thought it was conversation. So
awesome.
I guess
tell Allison thank you for sharing that. That's cool.
Yeah, say thanks.
Okay, let's hop back in. We got Deja Vu movie, which we know is just a movie. And then, do you guys know what this picture is here? What do you know what this is from?
Matrix.
The Matrix. Yeah, the Matrix. So that's one theory, is that we're living in a simulated environment. So we are living basically on a program that there is a master creator, like a god, who created a program, and we are in the program mentally, kind of like Matrix. So
yeah, I don't buy that one.
Yeah.
At all.
But it's definitely a theory that's out there. Now,
I wonder if it existed before the Matrix, though, if that theory existed, or if it's just, pop culture. People see it and they're like, oh, maybe Hollywood was trying to tell us something.
Well, let me say this. There may be some belief about it before the movie. I'm not sure. But there is at some point, maybe we'll do a short segment on that theory, because there's actually some interesting stuff that they've come out with mathematically and in our universe, how things appear to be almost preset like a computer program. Anyway, not to deal with that right now, but there is information and stuff that we could actually have a segment on it. So, there you go. We've got these types of things, and then the other thing is a conscious realm. So, Bill, earlier you talked about premonition, and so there's a belief that we can actually tap in to a conscious field that exists. In fact, Tesla, Nikola Tesla, he's a great inventor, person who came up with the electric volts the way we currently use it now to power our houses. And he actually said at one point that later in his career that he would get information from this sphere, this sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a consciousness level that he was getting information from. It was being communicated to him. And so there's a lot of people out there that believe that's a real possibility. There's talks about living in different vibrations and being different dimensional beings. Someday we'll get into some of that. But that's all tied around seeing things beyond our current frame, our current existence, or the way things exist for us. This also reminds me of remote viewing, which we'll talk about after your comment. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting you say a higher level of consciousness, because I was just eating something the other day, so we talked to Mother's Day. I made breakfast. Well, I had a random bottle of sugar-free syrup that was sweetened with monk fruit. And I don't know much about monk fruit, but I'm sitting there eating pancakes. The whole family's around the table, or waffles rather, around the table, and I am just looking at this bottle, and I turned it around and I read it, and it tells like a brief history of like how monk fruit was created or found, and it's about these monks that are in this, town, in this village far away, and it was just saying that they've achieved a higher level of consciousness, and they were able to accomplish all these things because of that, and they accomplished that by meditation and different things. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, so if you're meditating and you have a higher level of consciousness, like, there has to be intelligence being transferred through that, right? You don't just sit there and you think about it, and you close your eyes and you play music, and all of a sudden you're just smarter, right? There has to be something sending the information. So that's what I thought of when you're just talking about Nikola Tesla, is like if he was saying he was gathering information, it's like, okay, well, I would be interested to know where he thought that was coming from.
Yeah. He did say it was coming from another civilization, and it was coming from other beings. So it's interesting. I mean, definitely worth more talk down the road, but it is something that's used. You have monks, you have Native Americans who go into sweat lodges and try to induce these experiences so they can get influences and information from this other sphere of intelligence. I'm going to wrap up a little bit by talking about something called remote viewing. Remote viewing, we'll have to do a little segment on that in the future. There's a lot here, but it's real enough that the government, both the United States and Russia, have had over 2 decades long programs of people studying and doing remote viewing. And what remote viewing is, in a nutshell, quickly, is it's the ability for a person to be isolated, to be given a coordinate, like on a piece of paper, just a number coordinate of somewhere in the world, and they are asked to just put themselves in a mental state where they relax, and then they just draw things out. And they are able to see things in other places. And it's actually worked to the point where there's a story where we were able to identify a base, a hidden base that Russia had because of somebody doing this. So, once again, a whole nother area to talk about where people can tap into something. Remote viewers say that anybody can do it. It's just a matter about learning how to do it. And so I almost wonder, or they say, that deja vu can be some aspect of seeing something because your mind transcends beyond your current moment. Because this conscious field apparently allows you to go forward and backward in time and anywhere in the universe.
Well, that sounds like, and I'm going to say the name wrong, but you'll know who I'm talking about. Nostradamus?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, he was able to predict the future from way back.
He's accurate. He's pretty darn accurate.
Yeah. Right. How is he getting that information? From somewhere. So, anyway, the same sort of thing. So I only bring that up because what is deja vu, people? Is it misfiring of neurons? Is it misplaced attention and then re-seeing something? Or is there something more going here where that we as humans have the ability to tap into something that we don't really understand how to do? What do you guys think?
Well, I think deja vu is a huge window. And in fact, the word was used today during the Phillies game. Yesterday, Bryson Scott, I think his last name was Scott, he was hit by a pitch, right, with the bases loaded and walked in a run. That was last night. Same thing happened today. He got hit by a pitch with the bases loaded to walk in a run. I mean,
that's weird.
That is crazy weird.
Yeah.
I mean, and the announcer was like, boy, you talk about deja vu. I mean, 2 games in a row, get hit by a pitch, same player, and both walk in a run. I mean, is that deja vu, or is that coincidences?
You know, we started the episode by talking about superheroes, and I want so badly for something like this to be more than just neurons misfiring or not paying attention. Like the thought of that there's this extra ability that humans could tap into or train themselves, that's superhero type conversation. And, you know, deep down inside, I'm like, oh, I hope it's that. I hope it's something like that. You know, is it? I don't know. But,
I don't know.
You know, you mentioned being able to tap into other forces or different things with the remote viewing or whatever to gather other additional intelligence and things like that. It's like, man, I hope that's something that you can train to do, and there's something behind that, but I don't know.
Yeah. Definitely interesting, and I think there probably is programs that the government has. Forgive me, I'm skeptical about their willingness to share things with the public. I feel like there's a lot of things that happen and go on that they don't think we're ready to understand or hear. I just think that's the case. Anyway, is there more here? I don't know. Is it something that will only be really explored if there are groups like us and others talking about it and people pondering, is this possible? I don't know. But it is strange. And so as we end our show today, I just want to say, remember everybody, there's a lot of strange and unexpected out there. So keep your eyes, your ears, and your minds open. And until next time, stay safe.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.